just want to congratulate those Catholics that they went out last week, and over 60 faithful Catholics over to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. They prayed in front of a satanic circus. Can you believe that? There was a satanic circus that took place in the parking lot of Wyoming Valley Mall. And of course, they were dressed like nuns, and they were simulating immoral acts, the temple of the temple of Satan. But many Catholics went out there, including those from American East Fatima, TFP. They went out there. They spent several hours, praying the rosary with their drums, bagpipes, trumpets, and they were encouraging everybody else that was passing by to pray along with them. And they were letting them, and the signs that they had, again, were very cool. Satan has no rights, honk against Satan, reparation. So God bless these Catholics that they follow these Satanists around the country. They gather, groups of Catholics to go pray the Holy Rosary and take up public space for Jesus. So I just want to give them kudos. Dan, I also want to ask you real quick before I get into
that ties in. This is some of the confusions that we have today in the church. It's that, remember the distinction from Lumen Gentium, the Second Vatican Council, that the priesthood of the laity and the priesthood of the ordained, of the sacerdotal priesthood, differ in essence and degree. That means not just in the essence, we have a common priesthood, but we differ in essence and in degree. A priest is a priest forever, okay? And we're baptized forever, but we're not the priesthood in the same essence, same degree as the priest according to the Second Vatican Council. And the second thing it says in Lumen Gentium chapter 31, it says that the charism of the laity is secular in nature, and the charism of the priestly is ordered towards the sacrifice. And so what these guys did in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, they're doing the lay charism. That's the secular nature of the charism. Getting good doctrine, getting encouragement, getting all the sacraments and catechesis from the church, and then going into the world and bringing the gospel into a world that's becoming increasingly dark, increasingly macabre, increasingly satanic, increasingly oppressive, and targeting the Catholic faith and Catholic around the world, but in this country as well. So we have to stand up, each according to our own, how God has put us, and I think that's they're taking a page out of Jesse Romero's playbook right there and getting organized. You are the Catholic si se puede. Let's face it.
I'm actually friends with these guys, TFP. So we do keep in contact.
Good.
Dan, there's we also want to just mention, it's worth noting that Pope Francis appoints another homosexual activist of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. That can never be good, because this is the office that regulates Catholic doctrine. This is like the chief catechist on planet Earth, and just somebody who, again, has homosexual tendencies or proclivities. It's going to color their way at looking at the Bible. It's going to color their way at looking at theology. So I don't know about you, but to me, this seems like this was a checkmate, as they say in chess, by the devil.
No, for sure. This is again going back to something that Hannibal would said in the A Team, right? He would always talk about classic pincer maneuver, the classic double envelopment, where you draw the enemy on one side. This happened. Hannibal, the original Hannibal, did this against the Romans and a young Scipio around 100 AD, and they at the Battle of Cannae, and they for the first time they did a double envelopment in military history, where one side you flank them on the sides, and then you bring them in from the back, and you expose their flanks, and then you run up the middle. And that's exactly what we're seeing. The demon does this everywhere. He does this. It works. It works. And so we're seeing that at the CDF. It's very discouraging that what was considered to be the watchdogs of the safeguard. Remember from, again, Second Vatican Council, Dei Verbum, that the task of the magisterium is not over the word, but is servant and guardian. And so it's hard to be servant and guardian when you're introducing, at least subtly, these errors on homosexuality and human sexuality in general. So when you have those with those acclivities or that are active, and impure acts, it's going to taint the way you view. The one that is driven by impurity, that filters every aspect of their lives. It becomes something that filters how they, like you say, how they see Scripture, how they see men, how they see women. And so when you have prefects that write books about sacred orgasms, and then you have other homosexuals, clergymen that are being invited in, it for no other reason, it looks bad, and that's stating it nicely. So we have to just keep praying for the church and keep doing what we do, and just keep grinding it out and stay faithful. And you get to a point, there was times when you were a cop and the bullets were flying. There was times when I was in combat, and you'd like, yeah, this kind of sucks. That's what we used to say. Welcome to the suck. It means welcome to the grind. But you realize no matter what happens, I'm going to keep marching forward. That's what we use the phrase. The Rangers use the phrase Charlie Mike. You're going to continue the mission, and so we just got to keep continuing the mission, regardless. That God has placed us, as you have reminded me and many others from Esther. You were born for such a time as this. God placed us here at this time as part of the church militant, not the church somnolent, the church militant, right? And what do? We militate like the guys at Wilkes-Barre. We militate for truth, for justice, for beauty, for our families, for the Catholic Church. We circle around our pastors, our faithful bishops. We do what we can to support them. But this, again, we were born for this time, and we're living in really crazy times, unpredictably. I mean, if you'd have told us 30 years ago that this would be happening, we'd be like, no way, man. But it is. But deal with it. Deal with it. Charlie Mike.
Dan, give us an introduction to spiritual warfare in light of the whole of man's history. You wrote something in the intro to the next book, which is absolutely comprehensive for all of us to wrap our mind around. Can you share that with us?
Yeah. Let me back up. I was just printing up something that you and I've discussed in the past, because what I present in the introduction is kind of the opposite of this article came out called "The Triumph of Porno Theology," and porno theology is a phrase that was coined by Cornelio Fabro, Neo-Thomas, Father Fabro, and so he brilliant mind. He was a stigmatist. It says, to describe a particular progressive current that overthrew Catholic moral theology after Vatican II. The phenomenon emerged in the early 70s and has since infiltrated the teaching profession. The word porno is because he's noted the observation that many of these men are driven, as we say in the first segment, driven by impurity, sexual impurity. What I say in the book, I quote the Catechism that in Catechism 409, the whole of human history has been the story of dour combat with the powers of evil, stretching, so our Lord tells us, from the very dawn of history until the very last day. So we find ourselves in the midst of a battle, right? And so I kind of just laid out, again, I quote Saint Pope Benedict the 16th, who said that it's inherently self-evident that Christianity is about Christ, right? Liberation isn't static; it's about movement towards Christ. And so, what's kind of unique to our program really is going back to traditional Catholicism and not this Protestant version. Everything has been infiltrated by the porno theology that Cornelio Fabro talks about. This idea that a high Mariology, a high Christology, a high understanding of the priesthood, or a high sacramentology, understanding the centrality of the sacraments. So we need, that's the phrase from Kyle, that we fight an ancient enemy, the ancient weapons are best, right? And so those weapons that are tried and tested, and what are those? The sacramental and liturgical life of the church. And so we have to kind of stay consistent with tradition, because we're fighting a really ancient enemy that knows the rules of engagement better than you and I know them. And so these questions that we field and break down into various parts, the answers are all going back to the well of tradition.
Yeah, I like where you write here, you put the pathway to that union, indeed one of dour combat, which means extreme combat, and the battlefield in which we find ourselves, as if air dropped behind enemy lines, is largely an interior one. That's a powerful statement. The battle's right here, right in the human heart. Then you write, thus our return homeward, that is to say heavenward, means a return to authentic Catholic theology and philosophy to include Christian anthropology. In other words, Dan, what I hear you saying is that there's no quick fix to this. It's like stepping on tar, stepping on oil, stepping on mud. You're not going to get home and just take your boots off and just maybe, bang them together a few times and it's all clean. You're gonna have to clean those things in the backyard with a water hose, maybe get a toothpick, maybe even get a Brillo pad. It's going to be hard work. And that's what you're letting people know, that authentic Catholic spiritual warfare is largely one of the interior life, but also it's not white magic like a lot of people have been sold a bill of goods. A lot of Catholics, because of Protestant models, they think it's simply go to this person, they got the gift, go to this person, they got the gift, and they're going to say prayer and it's all taken care of.